Hello everyone, and it's finally time to start talking about the main aspects of the game. So up until now, I've mainly been discussing things like rate up spaces and whatnot, but it's finally time to get into some team building. But before we start doing specific operator analyses, I wanted to get in and do a video on the 8 main classes as well as their archetypes that are found within those classes. So for those wondering what an archetype exactly is, so the game doesn't actually do a great job of explaining archetypes. They mainly just cover the 8 main classes, but basically there are subclasses within each of the 8 main classes, and operators within those subclasses generally will share certain traits with one another. And so we just call these archetypes. So this video is going to be covering the Vanguard class and the archetypes that are found within the Vanguard class. And just so you know, like what you're seeing on screen now is me just sort of farming some LMD. Don't necessarily take it as a guide. I cleared this a long time ago and have since leveled up operators and whatnot. So I'm just casually farming because I need money right now. So the Vanguard class is commonly used early on in operations in order to generate your deployment points and hold off initial waves. And you're generally going to have 2 of them within your squad, or at least you're going to have 2 of them leveled up quite well. At least that's the recommended, that's what most people would recommend. In addition to that, they generally share the following characteristics: low DP costs just to get them out early, lower stat lines, and usually some way to generate deployment points. Currently, we have 3 archetypes in NA that belong to the Vanguard class, and the first one we're going to be covering is the DP generation on skill, or skill DP generators, of which you're currently seeing Courier on the screen as an example of a member of that archetype. So the archetype is defined by generally having their first skill be Charge. This is a skill that once the SP bar is filled, automatically activates and gives you a chunk of DP. The DP amount will obviously depend on the level. There are 2 exceptions to this, and those are going to be 2-star Yado, who has no skill by virtue of being a 2-star, and 3-star Vanilla, who the devs for whatever reason skipped giving her Charge in favor of just giving her what would normally be a second skill for this archetype. So the archetype has the following characteristics. Usually they're able to block 2 units. Their stats also tend to either be skewed towards either offense or defense, one of the 2 directions. What I mean is that usually there'll be either a nice gap between their attack and defense, or they'll be very close attack and defense, with in some cases their defense actually being able to reach higher than their attack. You can generally find out which one's which just by looking at their potentials, as their potential will usually increase either attack or defense to matching whatever side they're skewed towards. Generally, if the operator has a second skill, it will also usually generate DP, but it will also usually do something else like boost a stat or deal some bonus damage, possibly CC, or just provide some other utility. Generally, operators of this archetype are going to be picked for their second or third skill, as the Charge skill is, while not a bad skill, usually without their second skill, they're usually going to have a harder time dealing with waves. Their second skill is generally just going to help them out a lot more in combat, while still being very good at providing DP, and in some cases being better than Charge at providing DP. I would say that the archetype is considered pretty core. Like I said, you're currently even seeing Courier on screen, and you're generally going to have, like I said, at least one of them, possibly 2 of them leveled up. Fang and Courier are notable ones on the defensive side that are 3 and 4-star units. The 5-star unit would be what's her name? Zima, I believe it's called, for the defensive side. On the offensive side, 4-star Scavenger, as mentioned, and the previously mentioned Vanilla, who's a 3-star, are the offensive ones. Texas also is pretty offensive, as she's a 5-star unit. Siege is the 6-star unit, and by all means, if you get either of the 5-star or 6-star units, particularly 5-star Texas and 6-star Siege, you should definitely go for it and level them up, as they are very good units. The next Sort of archetype that we're going to be covering is going to be the DP on kill archetype. You're currently seeing Reed at the top of the screen as an example of said archetype. And this archetype is mainly defined by their talent, which lets them generate DP as whenever they get a kill, as well as refund their entire DP cost whenever they're retreated. In addition to that, members of this archetype can only block a single unit and generally have an offensive stat line to aid in their DP generation. They generally excel at dealing with weak enemies, or at least slow enemies, as you don't want, like, just enemies that they can kill before a second enemy gets to them, since again you don't want to allow any leaks when this happens. So the archetype is a little bit harder to use, mainly because you need to have they need to be able to get the killing blow in order to generate their DP. So if you provide like some supportive unit to help these out, and that unit takes the killing blow, then you're not going to get your DP generation. The other thing too is that one block means you have to take care to not allow leaks, as that will obviously prevent you from getting 3 stars on a mission. In terms of first skills, they're a bit more varied. The first skill for some of them tends to be Swift Strike, which is going to give you attack bonuses in the form of plus attack and plus attack speed, but in some cases you're going to just find flat attack buffs. So you know, you're going to get usually one of the two. Their second skill also is going to be pretty, like, a bit more varied. There's generally less consistency here, but what happens is you're generally going to get some bonus to their DPS. That's generally what their skills are going to do, and this is all just sort of help them out with getting their DP generation, right? So they need to kill stuff to get DP, and so their skills will generally do something that helps them kill stuff. You can see here in some cases they'll also get things like a bonus DP generation, and in some cases certain operators, their skills will let them block a second unit to sort of help them with preventing leaks. In terms of this archetype, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're like specifically core and that you absolutely need to have one. You can sort of kind of get by with some of the, like, if you need an offensive Vanguard, you can get by with some of the more offensive DP on skill Vanguards, like I mentioned before, like Scavenger. By just virtue of them getting their attack buffs, you can kind of just sort of like not have to use DP on skill Vanguards, but when the situation allows for them, they can be very, very useful. I would say Vigna is probably the one that most people will go for in NA. You can go for Reed if you definitely get her, but I would say Vigna does the job just perfectly well. There's currently no 6-star out in NA, but that will change once Bagpipe is released, at which point if you do get Bagpipe in the future, absolutely go for it. She is considered to be a very, very good unit. The last member of the last archetype of this class is the supportive Vanguard archetype, and currently in NA this class is exclusive only to Myrtle. It's also a bit of a rare archetype, as currently there are only 2 units out entirely that belong to this archetype. Like I said, only one of them is actually available in NA. So these archetypes, this archetype also is characterized by having a single block, but they also have this negative trait that prevents them from blocking whenever their skills are active. They're also not particularly like super amazing at a stat line. What they do get is they get a series of supportive bonuses. So this archetype usually has a very impressive DP generating first skill. It's a skill that will generate usually a lot of DP over the skill duration. That skill duration in Myrtle's case is 8 seconds, and that DP is 14. The other operator that is currently released out in China is going to recover 18 DP as opposed to 14 DP. The skill does have a decent like a decently quick charge time, especially as you level up the skill. These skills SP costs will tend to go down, so you'll usually get between like 20 and 30 max SP cost once you get it to level 7, with Myrtle having like the lower end of the 20s, and the not released operator being on the upper end of the 20s by level 7. So it's like obviously a really good skill, very popular skill to use when you have maps that reduce DP generation. The second skill is usually going to provide more DP, as is in the case of Myrtle, but it's usually going to be less DP efficient over time. So in terms of like, it's going to take longer to charge, but in response, it's going to get some type of bonus compensation. So in terms of like Myrtle, she's getting healing bonuses. In terms of the non-release operator, he gets like, I believe, a slows and a defense down debuff on his skill, in addition to like increased range, obviously, in order to take advantage of those. They also tend to have a supportive talent. So Myrtle's here is going to provide some healing for all Vanguards, I believe, once she gets promoted to E2. And the other operator, I believe, provides some bonuses to, I believe it's snipers. So as I said before, Myrtle is the only member of this archetype here in NA. If you pull her, you absolutely should level her up, because as I said before, she's pretty popular choice for maps with severe DP generation. She is very much like in the meta, and you'll see her in maps like particularly like contingency contract maps that where the DP generation reduction is quite popular. So absolutely do level up Myrtle if you pull her. So that's pretty much going to be it for the Vanguards and the 3 archetypes that are found within them. For more class guides, obviously stay tuned, sub, like, all that stuff, and I hope to see you guys all in the next video.